Welcome to the Fast Mode podcast series. I'm Ariana Lynn, and with me today is Prianca Ravichander, Chief Marketing Officer and CCO, Tecnotree. Tecnotree is a leading provider of full-stack digital BSS for CSPs and DSPs. The company helps customers to monetize and transform their business towards a marketplace of digital services. Priyanka is responsible for the global go-to-market strategy for Tecnotree's portfolio, manages branding and design for the company, and is the single point of contact for analyst relations, investor relations, public relations, and corporate communications. Tecnotree was recently recognized as a winner of the CX Catalyst Award for its impact at the Fast Mode Awards 2025. Welcome, Priyanka. Great to have you on today's episode.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And it's great to finally connect. It's been a while, I think. And thank you for the introduction. I'm really honored to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so let's jump right in. How does the team at Tecnotree feel about winning the award?
Oh, I think it's definitely something which we regard as a feather on our cap. We see that there's a lot of work that Fast Mode is doing, which is of high quality in terms of bringing the right people in the room to bring high quality evaluation and content to the table, asking the right questions at the right time. So for us, getting recognized by a platform like Fast Mode, especially for our AI and engagement capabilities, is definitely some stripes that we like to show and bear publicly.
Awesome. Yes, it was an honor to have Tecnotree join us as well, this being our inaugural award series.
So then congratulations to you as well on a very successful award series.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you guys again next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So shifting gears a bit, I want to dive into something that's been coming up a lot in industry conversations lately, which is, have telcos essentially become just an infrastructure provider for someone else's trillion-dollar business model? What are your thoughts on this?
I think today the answer to that question is yes, but I don't think it's permanent because telcos are obviously the roads to the internet economy, and like I mentioned earlier, value is on the edge. So platforms become destinations for them, and they have to figure out how to monetize these platforms at scale. I think the most important thing to look at is probably to understand that the real money that's coming in to telecom operators today, because they're still struggling to make good on the investments that they made into 5G infrastructure. They are also facing ARPU pressures. They're also facing scalability issues in terms of not being able to monetize, cloud and digital applications and, value-added services, bundled with the connectivity services. So those are still high potential, and of course the wholesale as well. And what you really are noticing today is that the disruptive money, okay, that is pouring into the telecom space, because the opportunity is quite vast and large, is not coming from within the telecom industry. It's actually coming from outside the telecom industry. So I think the question could be like reconsidered in a way where you say, why are some of the most disruptive growth coming from companies that aren't telecom operators at all? So if you look at Revolut Mobile, they're not thinking, I'm selling SIM cards. And in fact, customers don't wake up in the morning thinking, I want connectivity, or I need a SIM card. They wake up in the morning thinking, what are the outcomes I'm going to drive today? Of course, they're going to use internet and connectivity and voice and data and intelligence and AI and cloud infrastructure to drive those outcomes, but they're not thinking about those capabilities when they wake up in the morning. They're waking up in the morning because they want to drive those outcomes. And I think that's kind of the shift that the telecom industry sort of needs to take in terms of their thinking. And I don't think it's up to the operators alone. I think all industries, the analyst community, vendors like us, partners in the ecosystem, banks, etc., that depend on telcos and MNOs come together to make this intelligence ecosystem orchestrate itself, for driving those outcomes. And I think that's what is going to be important, in the future.
Amazing. So, what's really stopping telcos from dominating the AI space today?
No, I think it's a good question. When you say So if every good story, right, it always starts off with like a map, a survey of the market industry and the land, and you look at like some of the details that are that we have at hand, right? So on one hand, you've got telcos, earning 70% of their revenue, mostly coming from consumer business, and then their B2B revenue is still 70% coming only from the connectivity side of it. So they've not really monetized the full opportunity of their infrastructure. So the infrastructure itself, without AI, without cloud, without anything, they still have some growth potential there. At the same time, you've got explosive spending on infrastructure for AI, 2.5 trillion in 2026, and that's 44% year-on-year growth. It's growing at staggering CAGR numbers. You've got Gen AI value chain for investment, something like 4.4 trillion dollars. That's the potential estimated value of investment that could take up, that the Gen AI industry could take up. And the question is, are telcos going to capture that, as platform providers, or are they going to subsidize infrastructure for people who want to use the AI, right? So that's the question that you kind of need to answer. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, there are growth pressures. That, and return on investment, for the infrastructure of 5G, that they're still trying to figure out how to monetize. So you call that like technical debt. So they're suffering the debt, and then they're suffering the ARPU growth, and then of course the pressures for investing now heavily in AI and AI infrastructure, and all of these three things are coming at telecom operators at the same time, all at once. When you talk about the risks of, for the telecom industry, this is something that they really have to, be sensitive to in terms of the market dynamics and where they're going to operate. And every ounce of effort and investment that they're going to place has to be very guided by what are the outcomes that they're trying to drive, specifically. So when you look at the sort of challenges for operators, and how they can kind of build platforms that will help dominate, right, or at least put them in a dominating position. I think they need to focus on sort of converging fragmented systems, right, slow monetization, right, fear of moving beyond new business models. So I think those are some of the changes that operators need to sort of implement. Assets are all 2026 upgraded 5G on the way to 6G infrastructure, but the business model for monetization is still your monthly bill cycles and your quarterly results, and et cetera, et cetera, like your subscriber growth, instead of the subscriber value that you're trying to drive. So it's still 2006 in terms of the business model that most telcos are operating in today. So that upgrade, is something that CIOs, I think, need to sort of take the charge. CIOs and CTOs need to take the charge for the groups involved, and really define a very agile and lightweight transformation process to enable for monetization of that intelligence and orchestration. So telcos, they don't lack relevance. They actually lack the orchestration capability that we were talking about earlier, right? And it's up to all of us, I think, to support each other to make sure that the telcos secure that dominant position within the AI realm.
Okay, so building on that, why do you think telcos are powering much of the AI today? Providing the connectivity and the infrastructure that makes it all possible, but yet they're struggling to capture value from it.
I was sort of, it's funny that you asked this question, because, so what is the real relevance of real time? Because value is driven actually at the edge, right? Value is always at the edge, right? And what telcos monetize historically is the transport, right, of connectivity. But the AI economy monetizes something else. They are monetizing the intelligence, right? So what is happening is, for whatever reason the transport exists, it's like it's one of the core assets in the value chain for the AI economy. And what it's also doing is it's also stimulating the generation of more events and more data on the edge. Now, what we want to do for the telecom industry is, we want to not monetize after the fact. We want to monetize before the proliferation of those real-time events actually take place. And that's where telcos have to capture value and enter the value chain, not after the communication has passed, or sometimes even after the deal is done and the transaction is complete and you're just getting a notification of the bill. So to understand the real importance of what real time can bring to telcos, they need to position themselves to capture value at the right part of the value chain. And that's something that we're trying to drive today in terms of how we orchestrate intelligence across the asset base of telecom operators.
Great. It's clear that timing and positioning in the value chain will make all the difference. I like how you're framing this around real-time intelligence and moving beyond just being the transport layer. So that brings us to the end of our session. Thank you, Priyanka, for joining us and for sharing your insights on how telcos can move from being just infrastructure providers to true value creators in the AI era.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And to everyone tuning in, thank you for listening. If you want to learn more, visit www.techotree.com and follow us for more updates and insights as we continue to uncover the latest in technology and telecommunications. See you in our next session.